Hey, listen up. Yeah, we here and we locked in. Let's keep it going all the way to the top 10. We fear the turtles, so it's no other option. Fred and Ryan, just watch them. Let's take it to the max. It's the Shell and Tell. They come with all the facts. It's the Shell and Tell. Let's take it to the max. It's the Shell and Tell. They come with all the facts. It's the Shell and Tell.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of ShellnTell podcast. We are excited to get back in touch with you. The football season has arrived as week 0 is in the books. A few Big Ten teams and a bunch of other teams across the country have gotten their first look at real action on the grid line. We're coming to you on August 28th, Sunday, August 28th, and boy, do we have a special show for you here today. We are bringing back a 4-time guest now, Mr. Ellis McKennie, former offensive lineman and future president of the United States, to talk about what he knows best, and that's Terps football. Not only does he break down the offensive line that he played with some of those guys in the trenches with, but also since the offensive line is designed to stop the defensive line, we touch on a lot of the defensive linemen in this episode as well. So we're running out of days to finish up these position breakdowns. Can't be more excited to get out there, get to Let 4B, have a great time. Before we get to both Ellis's season-long predictions, all his superlatives that we talk about, we have to mention our sponsors. Quick Stretch Bodyworks helps athletes with their performance and recovery periods, both during, in, and off seasons. The naturally formulated athletic performance and recovery lotion is an easy, effective way for athletes to prepare for skill training and workouts in full swing. Founded by Todd Smith, a former college athlete and head athletic trainer at 2 collegiate programs, even some of the athletes at the University of Maryland are taking advantage of this product, including my guy, star linebacker Ruben Hippolyte II. Make sure to head over to quickstretchbodyworks.com and check it out today. That's quickstretchbodyworks.com. All right, guys, we are joined once again by former Terps offensive lineman Ellis McKennie. Played every position on the line with us, and believe it or not, this skinny guy sitting in front of you was, yes, once a Big Ten lineman.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be back on, the best Terps podcast in the land. I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate the support as always. It's been good to have your insight. Been good to hear your positivity around the team. Somebody that's, closely tied, gets to go on with the coaches. You were telling me you were just at practice this week, right?
Yep, I was just there on Wednesday catching one of the last training camp practices. I got to talk to a bunch of the guys, see Coach Locks, talk to a few of the coaches. So it was good to be back around and kind of see, the last few bits of the grind season that is training camp before they hop into, game week schedule that's this week.
Does the jealousy creep up of all the nice stuff they have around there now, or is it just all positive thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. So even just little things. So practice is over, they break it down, everyone's running in. I'm walking in with some of the guys, and they go, "Oh, make sure you're getting in ice tubs." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I remember ice tubs after practice, so fun." And I'm looking around, I'm like, "Where are the rubber ice tubs at? Like, why no one's filling them with bags of ice?" I go downstairs. The ice tub is a full-length pool in the locker room now that they get into. That's already regulated and whatnot. It's not single ice tubs with little rubber buckets and whatnot. I was like, okay, all right, let's see what we got working around here. All right.
Things that are fancy for just the point of being fancy, right?
Exactly. I'm like, if it gets us recruits, it gets us recruits, and it looks like the guys like it. But I can't be but a little bit jealous.
Yeah, absolutely. Gets us recruits, and apparently it keeps people around because I'm sure most people are aware we are bringing back an entire offensive line for the first time in God knows when. I can't remember a time that we've pulled this off. How big do you think that continuity is in the offensive line?
Oh, it's going to be incredible. I mean, playing in the Big Ten, the offensive line position is such a such a difficult position to transition into, whether or not it's because you're young or just because you haven't played a lot of snaps. And so once you play a few snaps in the Big Ten, you kind of start to figure out, how Big Ten football is played and the best ways to, attack it as an offensive lineman. So having guys who have now played 2-3 seasons in the Big Ten, have had a full off season all together playing as that one offensive line that went through a spring and now went through another full training camp together, that continuity is going to be something that a lot of schools can't claim. And not only do we have continuity with some big time ballers too. It's not like we just return 5 guys who happen to play. We've got some really, really talented offensive linemen that are coming back and who have all played a ton of snaps in the Big Ten.
So who was the most surprising that came back this year for you?
Surprising? I guess I wasn't shocked that Jalen came back, but Jalen obviously had an opportunity to go to the pros last year, and I think he felt a little bit of unfinished business, and he, was betting on himself a bit here, where he believes he's going to have the type of senior season that, will improve his draft stock even further. Jalen's a guy who started for 4 years now. He's had a lot of tape. He's been seen. He's been around, and so he had the opportunity to leave and came back, and that shows, his commitment to the university. That shows commitment to his teammates and to Coach Locks, and believe in what Coach Locks preaches, and then wants to come back and try to win some games this year.
Yeah, this is a guy coming back to reach like a 40-game starter mark, kind of unheard of nowadays in college sports there. He's a 2-time honorable All Big Ten. I think he wants that real All Big Ten mention on this year. I think that's got to be the starting goal, along with a lot of wins, right, man?
No question. I can see both him and Spencer Anderson ended up on those All Big Ten lists, and I'd be shocked if they weren't. We really have 2 guys, and the 2 of them, we've got 2 guys whose names are going to be called early next year at the NFL draft. So that's exciting for Maryland and exciting for the Terps because, offensive line is something that we always talk about when we transition. There's no more poor Maryland in their transition to Big Ten. We're here. We've been here for a while now, and it's time to actually make those moves and look like a Big Ten team. And I think on the offensive line is where we've struggled at times, and this is one of those teams where when you show up at practice, up front, we look like a Big Ten ball club. And so I think this is one of the years that we start to bridge a lot of those gaps that we were, struggling to reach over the past couple of years.
Yeah, you bring up Spencer Anderson. He was the Ellis McKennie lookalike last year, just kind of playing all over the line. Started out at right tackle, had to step in for Eric Harris, who wasn't quite up to snuff with the Big Ten, coming right out of a really difficult transition where he had basically played 365 days of football because he kind of played spring ball in the lower level and won a natty before coming over. So I think Spencer Anderson should have a big year this year, like you said. What comes out of that versatility? What's the benefit of somebody like you or Spencer that can just kind of plug and play wherever you put them?
So it creates depth all over the roster, so that you play your starters are your best 5 offensive linemen, right? But that 6th man is just as important as everybody else. But let's say the 6 isn't as versatile. Now you allow, if one person goes down, Spencer can go plug into where that starter may have gone down, and you can put that 6th man at his best position. Because obviously he wasn't one of the best 5, but if you put him in a position where he's the most comfortable, that's where you're going to be able to have success, even going deeper into the roster. So having a starter who can move all over the place like Spencer can, especially play a position like center that's really specialized and requires a really smart player, and to take advantage of that. That really creates versatility and creates a lot more depth than just the first 5. It really helps out the 6th and 7th guy on the roster as well.
Yeah, so that 6th guy last year, I guess, was Mr. DJ Glaze, who took over at right tackle. It was his best position on that line. I let Spencer Anderson go fill in elsewhere. I've been seeing big things for DJ Glaze. He got a little beat up in the spring game. I was a little scared, but then he did big things last year. You think this guy's going to handle the Big Ten well?
I think he's ready to take that step forward. I really do. I saw him a lot at right tackle, and I was at practice. I think he's going to be a tremendous player for us this year. Like I said, it's about taking those snaps, it's about taking those big-time in-game reps and getting it out of your mind that this is something, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome that comes with playing this big-time football. You gotta get over that mental hurdle of like, am I supposed to be here? Am I good enough to play here? And as soon as you get that hurdle and you get that type of confidence, you're ready to go. And he's a guy that has all the physical tools to be a great offensive lineman in the Big Ten. And so I think he's going to be ready to step in and play a lot of snaps for us at that right tackle position.
So that's the end of the tackles that had a decent amount of exposure last year. I do want to stop and give a shout out to, I know, a guy that you're close with that just had to medically retire out of football here, Mr. Marcus Finger, one of your boys. It's unfortunate to see his career come to an end, but I know he's still tied in with the program and doing big things. What can you say about Mr. Marcus?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy who dedicated a lot of his time and a lot of his efforts to the University of Maryland football and to that team, and was a good teammate to a lot of the guys there. So it's tough to see someone who has to medically retire, whose body kind of just didn't didn't give him the opportunity that he would have had otherwise. It's tough to see that. I'm glad that I don't know how the decision process went, but he made a decision that was best for him, best for his future, and best for his family. So I wish him the best moving forward, and I'm glad that he gets to still be around and finish out at Maryland before taking on the world, in other forms. So.
Yeah, but Ellis's TikTok's still better. Sorry, Marcus.
Yeah, hey.
The only other thing, I mean, is there any other guys you see kind of in the wings maybe for next year? Because like you said, you mentioned depth. Anybody you see developing in this tackle position?
Well, so in the tackle position, I'm not sure. See, they had a lot of guys playing all over.
Or just across the offensive line.
Yeah, across the offensive line. Big Roy, the freshman, he really impressed me just with his strength and his athleticism that I saw in practice. He's one of the guys that comes in with that class where we had the best offensive lineman, best tight end, best linebacker, best best quarterback from the state of Maryland come to Maryland this year, and he's a guy that I can see being a big piece of this team moving forward, especially after these guys graduate this year. He's going to be a guy who's going to be ready to step in and play. He's very physically advanced for a freshman offensive lineman, and I think he's going to be someone, hopefully, fingers crossed we don't have to see him this year. But
yeah, that'd be great.
Right, exactly. But I think he's a guy that in the future is going to be an extremely important piece of this team, especially with Coach Braz, who's proven that he can develop offensive linemen and really helps guys take that step forward. A guy like Mason Lunsford, who before was just a guy on the depth chart, took an extreme step forward when he started working with Coach Braz. And Jalen and Spencer, both who have now developed into big-time NFL prospects, where just after being with him for a few years. So I think Andre Roy's gonna be able to take that step as well.
Yeah, Andre Roy, again, normally true freshmen are not ready for the Big Ten. It's not our thing. But the last time I heard, he was running the second string left tackle right behind Jalen Duncan, who was the last true freshman to give us some quality reps. So if anybody can teach him the ropes and how to do it, he's in a good spot to be ready and raring for next year, hopefully.
No question. And then, like I said, it's really impressive, like the size of those guys. I mean, I forget what it's like to be that big, but I'll just walk around practice, like looking around. Goodness, like we've got some big boys around here, so I'm excited. I think we're going to have a good future at the offensive line. Hopefully, sadly, but hopefully they don't get a lot of snaps this year and too deep in the depth charts. But I think they'll be.
Hopefully, they get a lot of snaps when we're up 40. That's a good time for you to get snaps. Yeah, just beat up on some people. You talk about size, towering size. A guy close to my heart, kind of. We talked about this before last year where Mason Lunsford just kind of didn't look like an offensive lineman when he showed up, and he's turned into one. Another guy in that realm that I just pull for so much because he was me as a kid, just sitting there just like dreaming of the Terps. Tommy Varhall, I got to see him, wander around New York City, enjoying himself in the bowl game. But, I mean, when you come in at 6'8", 315, your head just dreams, like, if he can really put the work in and do things. So that's my, dark horse for next year. Hopefully, with all the experience he gets, he can take that jump that I never saw Mason doing. Hopefully the same thing will happen with Tommy.
And I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said with Andre as well, he starts out a step ahead. The kid is physically gifted just from a genetics point of view. So if he can figure out the toughness and then get his strength and get his technique right, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to explode onto the scene really quickly with the size and length that he has. I mean, so for me, I think like I talked about earlier, the biggest part is Coach Braswell. He's incredible. I really got to see him firsthand this past week when I got there. I got to talk to him a little bit, and a lot of the other coaches on staff talk to him and say that he's the perfect mix of a motivator and a technician. You see a lot of offensive line coaches who are going to go in and just yell and scream and try to get the most out of you, whether you're playing because you don't like him or you're playing because he motivates you one way or another. They just want you to play hard. And on the other end is the complete technician, a guy who wants everything super precise. Every movement has a purpose. Everything has a precise purpose in mind that you're going to get the job done. And I think Coach Braswell mends those two extremely well. He's a guy that these guys love playing for. He gets under their skin. He gets them moving. He gets them motivated. But at the same time, when they're doing these drills at practice and when they're looking over film, there are little tiny details that he makes sure they're doing right, because that's really what's going to take you over the top. Is when you do the small things correctly, everything else is going to fall into place. So that's why I think he's going to be he's a great guy for this group and with the group that we have right now and for developing guys moving forward.
I got a clip here from Mr. Spencer Anderson discussing his coach.
Let's hear it.
What has Coach Braswell kind of harped on or maybe emphasized to you guys so far this spring?
Technique. I feel like his last year was our first year under him, and he kind of taught us pro-level things. And, to him, I mean, it's kind of a not a knock to him or anything, but I feel like, we were we were getting stuff too fast and, kind of trying to develop as we went on. But I feel like now we can really harp on the techniques, and I feel like our second year with his techniques, then we'll be okay.
So how much did the PR coach hate that answer?
Yeah, Spence definitely got a text from Dustin after that answer, but I'm sure he'll be all right.
Who hasn't been slapped on the wrist by Dustin before? God knows ShellnTell has.
Oh, for sure. Oh, me too. And that's one of the best parts about being post-career now is I'll text Dustin and let him know I'm doing things, but it's not really permission. It's kind of like, hey, just let me know. I'll talk on this.
Yeah, it happens.
No, I mean,
they talk about this tiny techniques that get into this, the intricacies of being an offensive lineman. When he gets down to the common fan, it's kind of like, big guy pushes bigger guy out of the way. But how detailed can this really get? What are these blocking schemes they're worried about?
No, so I mean, first of all, it's all about aiming and targeting, especially with our run plays. If you're running an inside zone, there's such a small room for error because you're going from A gap to A gap. It's that little maybe 6 foot area that you're going to run the football. And so when you're an offensive lineman, your target for when you're running the ball there is important, especially at each position because your angle is going to change. And so we used to have a coach who used to always tell us, aim small, miss small. If you have a really intricate technique that you're trying to get done, and let's say you miss it by a little bit, you're still going to be in the right spot for the most part. So when you're in practice, you want to aim for that tiny target, whether it's the shoulder pad, whether it's the inside breastplate, whether it's getting your head on the right side of the blocker. There's so much little things to make sure that you have the right leverage and are giving the running back the right look in order to get that stuff done. And then, it also comes in the pass pro, where the pass pro game is a little bit more chess, right? It's you can see these big guys and you see these guys on the defensive side of the ball who are these big, long, athletic, fast defensive linemen. But as an offensive lineman, you have so many different sets at your disposal. If you can build a toolbox of sets and different hand fights and different movements that you can do to keep the defensive lineman off guard. Because a lot of the times, as an offensive lineman, you have to win 95, 99% of your pass sets, or else, we're going to be in trouble and it could be a game-changing play. And so you have to be really, really technique-driven in that sense. And I think Coach Braz does a great job of expressing that to the guys, and they really are trusting a lot of the tools that he's trying to put in their toolbox.
Yeah, with a team like ours, as much as we pass the ball, it's kind of like if the fans don't know your name, you're doing a good job. The long snapper technique. If nobody knows who you are, you're doing awesome.
Sure. And I think Talia takes another step forward as well, where he's comfortable. Understanding he is comfortable behind this line is just as important as him actually being comfortable. Him being able to see Jalen and Spencer and maybe what type of set they're doing and what type of positioning they have to know, okay, I can stand here an extra second, or I need to get out of here, or let me step up in the pocket because I know the 3 guys in front of me that are playing the interior offensive line have started together for now 2 years, that I have the space to step up without getting hit right in the face. It's stuff like that his comfortability level is the utmost importance. That's the reason they're out there. That's the reason we set the way we do, the reason we try to protect the way we do. And, he's not the biggest in stature quarterbacks of all time, so he might need that little bit of extra space, that extra window. I think he's going to be able to have that confidence with this group.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest step towards some of the crazy numbers that people throw out there is the health of Talia, keeping that pocket clean and letting him just work. And hopefully we have the right guys for that job.
I believe it.
All right, so moving into the guards, we talked a little about Mason. I was a big fan of his run blocking last year for sure. There was a little bit of talk that some of the transfers that they brought in were going to be competing with him for that starting left guard spot. Do you think Mason's going to hold on to his spot? He's going to be there, or is he getting the 6-man logo here this year?
I think Mason Lunsford is going to be starting on September 3rd for the Terps. That's what I believe. I think from what I've seen at practice and from what we saw in the spring as well some of the open scrimmages this year, I think he's going to be the guy for that position. I think moving across the line, that's where it's really going to be interesting. They've been having a competition at center, see who really wants to play there. I think like you said though, DJ Glaze's progression at right tackle is really going to force their hand in the sense that you're going to put Spencer somewhere. Spencer Anderson's playing on this offensive line, and it looks like he's getting comfortable at that right guard position as well. So the questions are going to be at center, whether that's Eric or Jahari or whoever's going to be able to fill in that spot. I think that's going to be an important key moving forward in the beginning of the season, is seeing who fits that role the best.
And then do you see Amelia Moran just being kind of the second string this year still, or?
He's one of those guys that I think is going to be an important depth guy that, he's probably naturally a tackle-ish, played tackle a lot in his life, but might translate better to guard in this currently in this state. And so he's a guy that'll definitely be involved in getting reps throughout the year, but I don't see him as a guy that's probably going to be in the starting five this year.
Yeah, his tape was great. He was a complete mauler, but it's just hard to, compare high school to the Big Ten, where, like, you don't just get to physically dominate people on every play. And a lot of his tape just was that. Just he was mauling people, just too big to handle.
For sure.
All right, man. Well, that about wraps it up with the offensive line. Where do you see this going? Would you see that is our depth in a good place? Do you like the additions we got with Colton Deary at center with all these? You already talked big about Mr. Andre Roy. Is the offensive line heading in the right direction? Like we're seeing our wide receivers, our running back depth really building on this team.
I truly believe it is. I think we're at a spot right now where we're going to be able to make a big impact this year in the offensive line. It's going to be a position of power, not a position of weakness that we've seen over the past couple of years. We're not a position where it's like, oh no, Maryland needs to catch up in this front. I think it's somewhere we're going to look this year and we're going to go into games being like, well, I know we can rely on this group to make plays and to protect the quarterback throughout the season. Moving forward, I think development is going to be an important piece. It starts with recruiting, and then it goes into building throughout the season and in the off season of creating these big, tough, smart offensive linemen that we have. And I think we've got the guys there. We've got the guys on paper to make sure that this rolls over to the next year and throughout the next coming years. I think it starts with tremendous leadership from guys like Spencer who are going to take them to these younger guys, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, even if they're not contributing on the field this year, and making sure that they're going to be prepared to be playing in the next couple of years. And then as well as Coach Braz just being able to be very particular about these guys in practice and building their development in the film room and off the field and making sure that they're going to be ready for the next season. Because, at some point in time, we're not going to have 4 senior offensive linemen anymore. It's going to quickly turn over to back being a young offensive line with guys who haven't played as many snaps. It's kind of the double-edged sword of having such an experienced group these past couple years. So I think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a challenge. There's going to be a lot of work that goes into the next couple of years of filling out that offensive line. But we've got the Joes. Now let's see if we can get it done in terms of development and in terms of getting the right mindset to have those guys ready to play.
I'm really excited for this season. I really can't wait. Before we go any further, we want to take a second to highlight Nilwire. Nilwire is a fan-first NFT marketplace created by a couple of brothers, whom are also former athletes, to help connect fans and athletes together. Their mission is to help athletes monetize their name, image, and likeness, utilizing blockchain technology and bringing value to their fans. With Maryland defensive lineman Mo Kite and Ami Finau partnering with a fast-rising company, their vision is to help athletes beyond sports and provide them with a network of fans on another level. Be on the lookout for Baller Series 1 NFT collection, which will be launching on Nilwire Marketplace this month. Make sure to sign up for a pre-sale on nilwire.io to get early access to athletes' NFTs and support the players. That's nilwire.io. I got a chance to listen to these guys on a space on Twitter. Really excited. The players seem engaged. It looks like there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Not only is it an NFT situation, but also a memorabilia type situation with a lot of these players where there's additional assets that you'll be getting with these NFT purchases. So make sure, even if you're not quite sure about the NFT game, if you're a big Terps fan into collectibles, give them a look. Go check it out. Can't hurt. Go to nilwire.io. Let's go back to the interview. All right, man. Well, that wraps up the offensive line. I know that's kind of your wheelhouse, but I mean, the dude designed to stop the defensive line can probably talk that. So do you want to talk a little defense before you go?
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, this is a group that we're returning a bunch of guys. We're returning guys like Ami Finau, who's going to be able to hold it down inside. A guy, Darrell Chami, who I played against for many years at Maryland. I always tell the story, and I saw it again when I was at practice. This kid is a freak and is going to be able to make a huge impact. And it's starting to get some of that national press that you see some big-time edge rushers get. There was my senior year with Coach Locks. It was in the spring, I believe. It was in the spring. And we had a third down period that had to be cut short because I was playing right tackle and could not block Darrell the entire time. Darrell knows it's a pass play and he can put his ears back and get after the quarterback. two guys that can keep up with him. And so I got to see that again. He's back. He's healthy. He's ready to go. And, we've got young guys coming up as well. Even guys like, the linebacker Barham that's coming in as a freshman. He's going to be a guy who's going to make an impact in the pass rush as well in some of those third down packages, just with his athletic ability and his quickness and his speed to be able to put pressure on the quarterback. So that kind of, that's something that we've been missing as well, is that consistent pressure. Greg Rose is going to take another step forward, a surprise from last year, is a guy that's going to play a lot of snaps for the Terps on scholarship, ready to focus as a senior and make a lot of plays. I think it's kind of a similar story. It's guys that's played a lot of snaps, ready to take the next step and to solidify that front seven and the trenches that we need in the Big Ten to be able to compete with a lot of these bigger names. Because we've had a lot of skill players, a lot of guys on the outside who've been really successful and have made it to the pros, but it's been those trenches that we've sometimes struggled with. And I see the defensive line taking the same step that I think the offensive line is going to take. Because I can tell you, it's been wars at practice. They go at it. As much as they're friends and whatnot off the field, when you're on the field at practice, that D line is your competition for a whole month and a half. Well, you got spring ball first of all, and that month and a half of training camp. It's you in the D line going at it for a while. So I'm really excited to see that group take a step forward as well.
Yeah, everybody worries about the guys that left, but nobody realizes the guys that came back. I mean, you mentioned Greg Rose. First of all, that's just like my first thought process is like, was that real last year? Because like you don't see a guy make that kind of jump. Somebody that's just like, whoa, here's your scholarship for the first time ever, to like single-handedly winning the Illinois game, like to getting his like scoop and score touchdown in the bowl game. Like he had an absolutely dominant year out of nowhere. So if that was just nobody had tape on him and it was a flash in the pan, it's one thing. If that was a step, this dude coming back could be a real game changer on that defensive line.
I think it's that confidence though that he's going to get, like having that little bit of success and seeing what that feels like. Scoring a touchdown in a bowl game as a defensive lineman is a big deal. That's exciting. That gets you going. You want that feeling now even more. So he spent the offseason continuing to work and continuing to make himself better, so that now he's ready to take a big step. And now guys know who he is. He's not going to surprise anyone this year, but he's going to be able to produce and to show up for the Terps as a big time defensive lineman.
Yeah, we could all sit and worry about the 2 4-stars that left, but we all forget how many 4-star D linemen they brought in. They brought in Taze Johnson, Tommy King Sote. They had Zion Shockley. They had a loaded class. Like, to the point where like, well, why are we bringing in Sonny? Well, because Locke says every year you're going to lose 30% to the portal. We brought in the dudes, and then we figured out which dudes wanted to stay. Like, we have enough to build. I do think that depth is here on the defensive line. Are they ready yet? We'll find out. Have you seen any of the young guys that are kind of, developing the way that you would hope they would the second year?
I think so. And I think they're going to be guys that are going to get a lot of reps. It's different than the offensive line, right? This is a group that you're going to move in and out throughout the season and throughout a possession, throughout a game. You're going to see a lot of guys subbing in and out to make sure that defensive line is healthy. Because I kind of think about it the same way. As much as we'd love for them to make individual impacts, the defensive line's job is to make the linebackers' job easier. So as long as the linebackers are comfortable with what they're seeing from these guys, that they're in the right positions, that they're pushing the right gaps they're supposed to be, our linebackers are extremely talented. We got, Ruben, Bandarius Cowan coming from West Virginia, Jay Sean Barham playing. We got a bunch of guys coming back, Fanaje coming back, Ahmad McCullough. We've got all these guys who are ready to make plays back there that are physical, strong, fast linebackers. And they're trusting that D-line to be in the right spot, to be able to take on double teams and to be able to do the dirty work so that the linebackers can make plays. It's a big deal. And then in the pass rush, being ready to get after the passer when we have to get off the field on third down. So I'm excited about this group. I think they're going to be able to take a step forward. I'm excited all around about this roster. If you can't tell, I had a few bad things to say. I think we're rearing for a big season.
Yeah. Well, we have 6 days left until I'll be in Lot 4B partying up and waiting for the Buffalo game. I've already got my money on the Buffalo game. That line's at 21.5 points. So, Locks, if you could just hang about 35-point lead at halftime, then take our starters and put them on the sidelines, it'd be appreciated.
We're allowed to talk gambling. I'll tell you right now, if you haven't taken the 5.5 win total over yet, you're giving away free money.
Yeah. So I took the 5.5 game win total, and then I went with the low money, really ridiculous odds. I got him winning the Big Ten East. I got him Talia for Heisman. So I could be really rich if some of these things hit.
You can make some money. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, these bets are just a little, they're so far out there that you can put $20 down and come home with $30,000 when they hit.
Yeah, I see. My problem is I'm too much of a Terp guy, so I bet the 5.5. I truly believe in that, but I've learned a long time ago that if you bet with your heart, you're going to get hurt. So I
Yeah.
try to stay away from each Terp game individually because I still have the mindset I see us going in and winning them all.
We're winning all of them.
Yeah, we're winning them all, so I can't put my financial security on that.
That's probably been a bad bet the last decade or so. All right, man. Well, feet to your fire. What do we do this year? What's the record? Where we end up?
We're 8-4. We're going to go to Nashville and win the Music City Bowl, and we're going to keep it moving this season. Have another big building year. We're going to have big victories. We're winning in Happy Valley. I'm telling you that today. That is happening again. Coach Locks owns that stadium. They're going to change the name to Loxley Stadium soon. And we're going to go in there and take care of business. And then we're going to win one of those big games that we have to, whether it's Wisconsin, whether it's upsetting Michigan on the road, Ohio State comes back to College Park. It's going to be an interesting time. I'm excited to see. So Ohio State's coming back to College Park for the first time since that double overtime game. So we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how it goes. It's going to be loud. It's going to be full. It will be red, but I'm not sure whose red it will be. I'm pretty sure we both know whose red will be there, but please make me a liar, Terp fans. Please fill that stadium up. Put some Maryland in those seats because, my God, it's usually about 70% Buckeyes, but that didn't help them last time. So,
I was already yesterday, so we're recording on Sunday now. Yesterday, week 0 was like my prep. So I was sitting here watching. I was watching Nebraska, Northwestern. I was watching Illinois. And I'm like, these guys cannot play with the Terps. Too bad we only have 2 of them on our schedule this year. We were in the West. I got us
Big Ten West, we would be 10-game winners.
Oh my goodness! And I think I'm flying out to Madison to watch that game this year too. I think we got something in store for them as well. But we'll see.
All right, so we got ShellnTell covering like all the away games. You're at Madison. I'm at Charlotte and Michigan. I already put it out there. If we're undefeated going into the Penn State game, I'm gonna have to come out of pocket with that as well.
Hey, send me the Instagram login. I'll go live. I'll be ShellnTell rep. Let me know.
That sounds good to me, man. Who do you got? Team MVP. Who's showing off this year?
Team MVP, if he stays healthy, will be Jayshon Jones. Watch out. The kid is a baller. Has always been a baller. There's going to be a lot of attention on the other 2 guys on that receiving core. We like to throw the football. There's going to be enough touches to go around. You put Jayshon Jones on a third quarterback on any roster in the country, and Jayshon Jones is going to eat. I can promise that much. So
100%. I tweeted out a picture of Jayshon Jones at the media day, and I was like, does anyone remember when the last time was no one game plan for Jayshon Jones? And that's going to be his week in and out this year, because how do you decide to game plan for him when you have everybody else there?
The last time no one game planned for him, he had a receiving touchdown, a throwing touchdown, and a rushing touchdown.
Exactly. So his first 3 touches of his life.
So I say watch out for Jayshon Jones. On the defensive side of the ball, I can see Darrell Chomley having double-digit sacks this season. And then on the back end, I got to give a shout out. McDonough kid, Baltimore. He's from out of Delaware, though, but went to the same high school as me. Dante Trader playing safety. He's gotten so much bigger, so much stronger. He's been in the program for a year. He's ready to make an impact. He's a kid that's got the right mindset. He's a smart kid coming out of the McDonough school, of course. I can always got to give him my shout out. And so I think he's going to make a big time impact this year. And he's finally comfortable now. So, he was the kid who came in as a lacrosse recruit as well, took his freshman year to focus on football. And I think he's going back after this season. He's going to try to get back on the lacrosse team. But that shows a type of trust and belief that Coach Locks has in him. He's proven over the past year and a half that he's going to be a player for this football team. And so I'm really excited for the year that he's going to have. Number 12, Dante Trader.
All right, man. Dizzy Dante is going to have a big year. I like that. Before I go, I got to ask you a legal question.
Okay.
How do we get the Nittany Lions to cease and desist putting billboards up in Baltimore City?
I think I can shoot a few texts out, and those billboards might not look the same anymore.
That's what I was calling all Squeegee Boys last episode.
I was going to say, call all the Squeegee Boys, offer them a little gear, and I think they might be able to take care of it.
That's right. I said, send me the bill later. I need all the tag artists of Baltimore City to take care of this.
I will promise them I can find them good representation.
That sounds good to me. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. Another episode of ShellnTell. Make sure you follow Ellis on Twitter. Why don't you give your handle, Ellis?
It's at Ellis McKennie. Easy to do right there.
At Ellis McKennie. Follow Ahmed at Gafir the Turtle. Follow Fred at FredBLBS. I'm at Terps Expert. You can always follow at ShellnTell Pod everywhere you can find it. The Instagram has been on fire with the 100-player countdown coming to a close here. So please make sure you check that out. Hey, Ellis, sign us out.
Yeah, thank you, Terps. All the Terps fans for listening to the best podcast in the land. I really hope to hear you out at the Terps Stadium this year, at Maryland Stadium. And I hope that we can raise high the black and gold all season. Here's to wishing all is well under the shell. See you guys next time.